Good evening.
Good evening.
And welcome to the discussion on financial literacy, K-12 in Wacomico County Public Schools. I'm Edward Lee, and I'm not sure what camera I'm supposed to be looking at, so, okay, good. I'm Edward Lee, founder of Teach Them to Fish Financial Literacy Home Ownership Program. Teach Them to Fish specializes and has a special program that helps people to improve their credit scores and purchase homes so that they can become a part of the American dream. This evening, however, I'm privileged to serve as co-chairperson along with my colleague, Bishop Anthony Dickinson. We represent a group of community organizations and individuals that believe financial literacy should be required K-12 for graduation in Wacomico County Public Schools. The discussion here tonight centers on the question whether the current K-7 requirement for teaching financial literacy is sufficient. The question is, should the Board of Education change the requirement from K-7 to K-12 for graduation in Wacomico County? Relevant to the discussion, I received an email this afternoon that I'm going to read to you from our representative, Cherie Sample Hughes, Speaker Pro Tem in the House of Delegates. Good afternoon. I have attached two bills that address financial literacy. LR 645 is being introduced by Delegate Jay Walters, and LR 1655 is being introduced by Delegate Benjamin Brooks. Speaker Pro Tem is co-signing both and would like you all to consider lending your support by testifying when the bill comes up for hearing. Right now, they are being drafted. Once they are done, you'll be able to find them at the website below. I will tell you when the bills will be heard and in what committees. If you need anything else, please do not hesitate to contact my office. I share this with the public and with the people here tonight and the people on Zoom. Don't call me about the bill. I want you to go to our delegate. She has the information. I don't have it. But I'm pleased to know that she is on board with these two bills, because what these two bills represent are failed attempts from last year for the bill to get out of committee that would require financial literacy K-12 in the state. So we are having a discussion, and it's been delicate, but I'm so pleased that we do have with us tonight a member of the board. I'm pleased to see a member of the board sitting in the back. I'm pleased to see also the president of the county commissioners, Wacomico County here. And I don't want to single out people, but you need to know that we are speaking with your elected officials, and that they are listening and trying to make the best evaluation that they can in terms of resolving this issue. So I take my hat off and give the nod to the elected officials and our delegate, Hughes. I want to interject. Please be advised that there will be no discussion regarding junior achievement. Our discussion tonight is tied to the issues contained in the proposed legislation, which I just read to you that's being offered. So the agenda timeline for the night is set as this, and we have 2 rounds of discussions, and we've divided it in 2 parts. And in the first part of the discussion, we are going to have our keynote speaker, Dr. Kasey, whom, needless to say, is the expert in the county on the subject matter. He is credited for those of you who may not know, with bringing and getting, and I don't know if the proper, I would say, bringing financial literacy or getting it into the school system, the college system here at Salisbury University. Students entering the college in their freshman year and coming, I think, the next couple of years, they will be required to take financial literacy in their freshman year. And I'm sure Dr. Cassay is going to will speak some more about that. So, 2 rounds. The first hour, we're going to have Dr. Cassay, who is going to give us the background and his experience and his wisdom and his knowledge as it relates to the subject, financial literacy. Followed by Dr. Cassay, we're going to take questions from those of you who are on Zoom, Facebook, those of you who are in the audience. We will take those questions. One of the things that we must look at is the timing. Folks, we want to hear from everybody, or as many people as we can. And so we're going to ask that your questions be limited to 1.5 minutes and the answers 1 minute. 1.5 minutes to make your statement. And then the panel or the moderator will direct where that question should go. Now there's a board over there that I'm going to work on as soon as I leave this podium. And on the top of it is called parking lot issues. If there are issues that are raised tonight that are not germane to the topic at hand, we're going to put them on the parking lot issues. And we will try at the end, if we have time, to answer them. If not, we're not going to promise to get back to anybody on them, but we'll try to facilitate as best we can based on who's answering that question, who's raising the question, so that we can hopefully get an answer to you. The point being is that we're not going to try to cover the waterfront. We're going to stick with the subject matter tonight to get the best input that we can from you, so that will help us make our decision where we go. Let me share with you quickly and get out of the way the panels here tonight in alphabetical order. Dr. Alan Brown, District 1 School Board Representative. Mr. Jason Cook, who's on his way. Come on up here, sir. We got a seat for you. You don't sit back there. We got a seat for you up front, in the hot seat. Come on. I think you got a choice between one over there and one here. Mr. Cook is the district manager for Embrace, a financial company. And one of the things that I'm going to ask the panelists, I don't want you to go into a long dissertation, but give the audience just a couple lines of who you are, because I'm not trying to cover all of that here. And our moderator for this evening is Miss Joni Martin Williamson, and I can talk about her. She's sitting here. She is the president of and my broker for E.A. Martin Associates, and a teacher in our program, Teach Them the Fifth. Joni is a very special person for us because she has been with this project from its very beginning. Before I bring Miss Williamson to the podium, I'm going to ask that you join me in a moment of prayer. And I'm not going to offer the prayer, but I'm going to ask each of you here and each of you who are listening out there, let's take a moment and be thankful for being here tonight, to be in a country where we can freely, openly discuss matters such as this that are delicate within government and within our communities, and we have the freedom to speak and to act. So that's a blessing that comes from on high. So I want to take a moment 1 minute if we will, and give thanks for where we are and what we're doing and ask blessings. The next voice that you will hear is that of our moderator for the evening, Miss Joni Martin Williamson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joni Williamson, and as Mr. Lee said, I am with ERA Martin Associates in Salisbury, and I'm also the past president of the Coastal Association of Realtors, which serves Wycomico, Worcester, and Somerset counties. And I have to read off of paper, so I'm not very good at speaking live, so bear with me. Before we begin tonight, I'd like for everyone in here to think about the last time you utilized financial literacy in your daily life. Maybe you applied for a loan, purchased a car, or created a budget for the year. Maybe you reevaluated your retirement savings or your life insurance policy. Now think about where you would be if you didn't have the skills to do that. What if you didn't know much about credit and could not qualify for an auto loan? What if you were intimidated by finances and never budgeted your money? Where would you be today? I've always known that financial literacy was important. My parents taught me about budgeting, credit, and building wealth from an early age. I learned how to evaluate and make good decisions when it came to money. But I didn't realize how fortunate I was to learn those things at home. Most people out there do not receive this kind of education at home and have to rely on the school systems to teach them these valuable life skills. Today, I see so many people in my line of work and through Teach Them to Fish who are in need of financial literacy. Without having a grasp on their finances, they're unable to buy a home, and many even struggle to rent. Debt, poor credit, and the inability to correct their course plague so many Americans. What if, before it was too late, these people had received an education on financial literacy? What if they had learned about the importance of credit, how to budget, and how to plan for retirement? Think about the difference it would make in our community if our citizens were financially stable and could make good choices related to money. Here in Wycomico County, our poverty rate is 17.8%. That is compared to a rate of only 9% across the rest of the state of Maryland. In Wycomico, 57.7% of our county's population are homeowners, but in the rest of Maryland, it's 66.8% own their own homes. So we're below the state on a couple of these key factors, and they're contributing to the overall wealth of our community. We are so fortunate in our area to have programs like Junior Achievement. I've had the pleasure of teaching for Junior Achievement, and it's an incredibly rewarding experience. The knowledge that they give to our students is so important, but we need more, and we need longer term. They need more of this valuable information, and it should be required. Tonight we're going to hear from several local professionals and experts in the education and financial fields. I think you will hear some compelling evidence for making financial literacy a requirement for all age groups in our schools. I think you'll see that financial literacy education will benefit our community from the ground up and make Wycomico County a better place to live. So without further ado, I will introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Kashi Kazay. I'll pull up your PowerPoint and we'll get going. Welcome.
Wow. Thank you.
Sure. I think we can just...
Yep. Thank you, Joni. I appreciate the introduction. My name is Kashi Kazay. I'm professor of finance, Purdue School of Business. Can you guys hear me? I've been here since August of 1985. And some of you probably weren't even born then. And starting 1988, I was pushing for financial literacy to be a part of general education for incoming freshmen. You can do the math, 1988, and finally last year we passed it. And it's going to be effective fall of 2024 because the whole gen ed has to be reviewed and revamped, and all the courses must meet certain criteria and what have you. Not only we were successful bringing financial literacy as a course, we also were successful to change the phys ed, if you will, that every student takes the first year or two, to a wellness program, which covers physical, emotional, and financial, because all of those are related to some extent in order to make sure the students are well-rounded in the wellness program in every aspects of it. So with that introduction, as I mentioned, 1988 and 2021, just see how many years, at least what, 30? And so there are always hope, not to give up and push forward. And when Mr. Lee approached me about this issue for tonight, I welcomed it because I have a lot of students coming to my finance classes and they have no clue. So hopefully in the future that wouldn't be the case. So let's start and see what needs to be done. Of course, as you can see, K through 12 and the importance of financial literacy in 21st century. A couple of stories to tell you. One, a 16-year-old boy asked his dad, buy this Mustang for me. And the dad's reply was, we already have a car. And I said, but for me, I'm 16, getting my license and all that kind of stuff. And of course, when I'm saying a 16-year-old, a Mustang, I'm talking about the first year that Mustang came out. In 1964, then again, some of you were not even born. And believe it or not, the icon who developed that car designed it and for the Ford Lee Iacocca, who is now dead and gone. But, and my dad said, I cannot afford it because I owe a lot. I said, well, owe some more. And that was my response to him. Why? I didn't know anything about finances and all that kind of stuff. I was just wanting to have something and we're not willing to wait. Now, a story about an 8-year-old girl. Wanted something and asked Dad, why can't we get that? Dad said, don't have money. He said, well, write a check. Well, the dad said, writing a check is not the answer because first you have to have the money in the bank before you can write against it. Now, that 16-year-old boy was me. I don't know if you could relate to it. And the 8-year-old girl was my daughter. And she was the maid of honor at her wedding. Now, did those two individuals at those ages have a knowledge of financial literacy? Of course not. Did they believe that money grows on trees?
Absolutely.
Of course they did. And to be honest with you, in my opinion, the money does grow on trees if you know how to plant that tree and take care of it. So, taking you back 44 years ago, Time magazine cover, that was during a time, 1977, I was working on my MBA in Minnesota. There were no cell phones, no internet, no computers. You just have to understand the time issue of this. We had to subscribe to certain magazine, and that was one of them that I was subscribed to do this. And that caught my attention. High school's in trouble. They are on fire. Why? Because the student graduate from high school and cannot read or write. Not all of them, let me mention that. And also, they are not proficient in math or sciences. So what needs to be done? So that was 44 years ago. Then, who's admitting these people? I did. 44 years ago, majority of Americans appear convinced that the quality of public education is on the decline. And at the same time, they knew that they cannot really measure the impact on graduation skills in math and sciences because those were the keys. However, the level of funding has never stopped increasing. More money, but not really getting the return that we are looking for. That was then. We are now in the third decade of 21st century. And one of the most important subjects, financial literacy, is missing in K through 12 curriculum. Why? I don't know. We must introduce students at the earliest stage. Some may say, are you kidding us? K? Kindergarten? Yes. They need to know what money is to begin with. So we must introduce the students at the earliest stage, the basics of money management, budgeting, saving, management or managing the debt, investing and giving, by giving back to the society. The foundation of this knowledge, in order to be effective, needs to be introduced early on our students in different stages. You cannot just have a course and say, okay, take this course, you're going to be proficient. No, it doesn't work that way. It's like ABCs that they start at the early stages, and then they put words together based on the alphabet, and then when they have those words, they can write sentences, and after that, they can write compositions and this or that. So, they need to start early, as I pointed out in different stages, by playing games that involves money. There was a game that used to be called, Monopoly or something like that. That could have been a good start. Of course, the outcome will be strong money habit, an ability to use knowledge and skills to manage financial resources effectively for a lifetime of financial well-being, which leads to a less stressful emotional lifestyle. And that's the reason we made this wellness program, physical, emotional, and financial. If you don't have much of a problem with your finances, you're less stressed and you can live a happy life. All the problems usually starts with money. Parent and the school's role. Of course, parents should get involved with their children to make a wish list and give them a small allowance to manage it. And perhaps that allowance should require some task that needs to be accomplished by the student or the kids or their child or this or that. You need to get the children involved in all the purchasing aspect of, family's life, perhaps. Why? Because that's how they learn. How the parents make decision what to acquire, what to purchase, and this and that. And how important it is to have good credit. You don't have good credit, even if the bank will lend you, the interest rate would be here rather than being down here. It is never too early to teach them about finances and how to manage money in the real world by using math in everyday life to make solid financial decisions, such as your taxes, interest on the savings that you earn, or the interest that you have to pay on a borrowed funds. A lot of students, when they hear about the interest rate, they think we're all the same. No, it is not. Therefore, the goal behind teaching financial literacy must be to help individuals early on to develop a stronger understanding of basic financial concepts. That way they can be better stewards of their wealth. Accordingly, financial literacy, in my judgment, must be the most important addition, or become the most important addition in K through 12 curriculum. As I indicated earlier, it shouldn't be just one course. It has to be taught little by little, step by step, through those 12 years. And as they move forward in different grades, then the level should be higher and higher for them to understand it. Now, what are the key components of financial literacy? As you notice, there are some highlighted under the earn, spend, save, invest, borrow, and protect. But what do we mean by that? You have to earn some income. Why do you earn income? Because you have some expenditure. You need to spend it. But the sky is not the limit, so you have to budget. And then it doesn't mean that you have to just spend whatever you earn. You have to think about the future. And that's why you save or invest. Sometimes your desires exceeds what you have. Then that's why you're having a shortfall on those expenditures. Then you borrow. And of course, these days, you have to protect yourself because of that identity theft. So it's a lot to think about, and that's why not all of these can be taught through one course and say, okay, I've taken the course, I passed it, and I'm good to go. No, it has to be instilled in you. So you would never forget it, because gradually you will understand better. You have to be involved. Otherwise, it goes, as the old saying goes, through one ear and leaves through the other ear. Here is a pretty good example. A financially literate individual knows that if you take home $4,000 a month as an income, they cannot go over that budget. If they do, they have to borrow. However, someone that has a higher level of financial literacy knows that out of that 4,000 they should save some. Not that 4,000 comes in, 4,000 goes out. Oh, I'm needing more than that, therefore I go and put myself into debt. No, it has to be disciplined. That's why, again, I said it has to be a gradual process. So the benefit of it is a strong knowledge, which is that foundation for a student to build strong money habits early on and avoid many of the mistakes that led to lifelong money struggles. Those who have done that, they can handle their money better. I just want to interject something very quickly. I've been asked to speak to some of the classes, mainly the phys ed sport classes. The professor was showing some videos that some of these individuals who get drafted, whether it's in NFL or NBA and all that kind of stuff, they get all these contracts, millions of dollars, but after a few years, they are dirt poor. Why? They didn't know how to handle their fortune. That's why financial literacy is important. But at the same time, we know of some, like Michael Jordan and others, that they have built a fortune because they either knew it and they sought help through financial advisors, and they are doing fabulously. Of course, this part may be a little bit more advanced for K through 12 individuals, but they have to understand gradually that money has a time value. The dollar that you're promised to receive sometime in the future has less value today. The money that you have today will have more value in the future. And that happens through investing and compounding and all that kind of stuff. If you want to have better return, you have to have some guts to take some risk. If you don't have that gut to take the risk, then your return would be minimal. A lot of people invest in government securities because they are virtually riskless. But the returns are not much, 1 or 2% or 3% max. But when they invest in the stock market or a corporate bond market and stuff, if they are wise, their return would be heck of a lot more. But of course there is an element of risk, and that's why you need to be careful. Of course, efficiency of the financial markets regarding pricing securities and the issue of manager stockholders and their objective and this and that, and of course reputation matter. These are a little bit more advanced as the student gets in through their study. Now, how do we convey this financial literacy to children? Start early and start small. I mean, everything that you see now, I have touched on. Set a goal for children at a very young age. Ask their opinion about the financial decision. Children learn more from what you do than what you say. Educate them about earning and investing. For older children, of course, you have to take it up a notch. Conclusion. Financial literacy for children is about ensuring that they are educated on the best way to manage their finances. This is a way of securing their future. This is because they will be able to learn how to manage money in all possible ways. This helps them always spend wisely. Now, do I still have time? I got this story which I really felt appropriate. And I'll let you read it yourself rather than me reading it to you. And you notice that I put there are a lot of quotation inside, but I did the red one to point out it's not me doing this. I've got it from some source. So please take a moment reading it. 2 pages. Are we good? Now, why did I put this over here? If you educate your children If the school system educates your children and includes that financial literacy, and they know how to handle their finances to be successful, they are going to teach their own kids, their own grandkids, and the cycle, like that tree and the leaves, will continue. At the absence of that, the tree will die. So money grows on trees if you know how to handle it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
The next part of our program is we've got a couple of questions to pose to our panel, but then we're going to also take any questions from the audience that you all may have as well. So I have a couple prepared here. Some of them Dr. Kazay sort of answered or touched on in his presentation, so I don't know who I'll start with over here or what the best method is to go down the table, but the first question is, can you share some of the most important benefits of requiring financial literacy for all students in our county? So you've already given us a lot of answers with your presentation. So I'll move on to you, Ms. Green.
Yes. Well, my name is Amber Green. I'm the executive director and founder of Phoenix Youth Project. We are a creative arts organization that focuses on empowering youth to use their creative talents to impact social change. One of the services that we provide as an organization is we provide direct services to those who are experiencing homeless or at risk of homeless. So we work with youth who are between the ages of 14 and 24. And one of the reasons why I personally believe that financial literacy is important through K through 12 is that we see a lot of young adults who are experiencing homelessness that have no experience with financial literacy, to the point where they have survival skills and they don't have thriving skills. And a lot of that is because some of the students and youth who we are working with, they are currently enrolled in school and they're living adult lives. So they may be in 10th or 11th grade, but they need to worry about getting ready for credit and things like that, and they're not prepared. Another reason is some youth are dropping out. We have a very large dropout rate within our county, and that is because a lot of youth are choosing to live adult lives because out of their living situations. And so if we were to be able to prepare them, perhaps in middle school, leading up to whatever situation whatever, their hands are dealt with, whatever cards of life they are dealt, they're able to survive and also to be able to thrive financially.
Thank you. Thank you for all the work you do too.
Thank you.
All right, I'll pose the same question to you. If you could tell everybody a little bit about who you are, what would you say some of the most important benefits of requiring financial literacy would be?
Good evening. I'm Alan Brown. First of all, let me say that I'm a product of the Wacomico County Public School System, and also I received my master's degree from Salisbury University. So education is an important part of our society, and it's an important part of our community. One of the reasons why financial literacy is important to all of us and to our students especially is that we want to make sure that all of our kids in the school system become productive citizens in our society. In order to become a productive citizen in our society, you have to develop in some way a career, and that career involves becoming a worker in the community, a landowner, a homeowner, and giving back to the community. And when you do that, you have to know how to manage money. You have to know the value of a dollar. You have to know how to use that dollar. And most importantly of all, when students and families do this together, as was indicated earlier on, as young people, they get a bearing of how to go about doing that. Unfortunately, in our society today, and especially right here in Wacomico County, many of our students do not have the type of supervision and the type of support that we would like to see them have from the home. So therefore, a great deal of what has to happen to build that foundation has to start in the public schools and has to start early on in K through 12. I agree with everything that was said here this evening, that financial literacy is important, and like everything else, we've got to do a better job and we need to do more to prepare our children to become productive citizens in our society. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason, I will pass the same question to you. What would you say some of the most important benefits of requiring financial literacy in our schools would be? Can you tell us who you are too first?
Absolutely. No, my name's Jason Cook. I'm the Eastern Shore Manager with Embrace Home Loans. We do mortgage financing for the Eastern Shore. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. I couldn't agree with what everybody else said even more. I look at financial literacy and finance, it's a language. And, you know, we start teaching our children, my young kids, foreign languages in grade school. Why aren't we teaching them this? Because this is going to help them in their careers and their families in the future. And one of the most important things is your mental well-being and your health. And far often, when I get in the frame, I'm helping people understand financial literacy, and by then it's too late. And we're in an area where, especially over these past couple of years, they need to find houses because the rental properties that they've owned for the past 5 years are being sold because of high market values from the owners. And they come to me, and we have now we have a gap here because we can't help them because their credit is too low immediately. Then we have to coach them on doing that. So now we have a time span when their families need housing, and then that affects them, and it's a generational issue. So I thank you for the opportunity. So that's one of the big things for me.
Thank you. Dr. Goudet, do you have anything else to add? I know you had a whole presentation.
If they have any question regarding the stuff that I mentioned, I'll be happy to
Thank you.
respond.
Well, before I go on to my next question, are there any questions from the audience that would like to ask either all or one of our panelists? All right. Oh, yeah. Thanks for being here.
Yes. I was just curious what actually took like 30 plus years to get the approval that was just approved?
Good question.
A lot of people may think it's a tough question, but the answer is very easy. It's called turf battle. There are certain number of courses in the gen ed. If you want to add another one to it, that means the student's going to take that one instead of some other courses. And that has been going on. There were 3 times a committee was formed to look into the changing of the gen ed. After 3, 4, 5 years, it collapsed. Why? It was a lot of resistance. The reason we were successful this time, because it took 6 years, and we are on the 7th year, and then 3 more years before implementation takes place. Because those never changers either had died or retired, and their number was low. We had a lot of new faculty that they understood that the gen ed that was 100, 150 years old, it cannot be useful for 21st century. But again, the turf battle and all that kind of stuff, that's why it took 6 years to convince. What we did initially was we surveyed the alumni, we surveyed the students, and we surveyed the faculty. I insisted, because I was involved throughout those 6 years and I'm still involved with this. They resisted contacting or surveying the parents, which I thought that would be a great thing. However, alumni, more than 90% of the responses said financial literacy is the number one thing. They wish they had that in gen ed. Students, 90-some% said, why aren't we having it? That is the first thing. Faculty, on the other hand, ranked it low. Around 70% felt, it would be a good addition. So based on that, we start working on it. Now we have a standalone course. If the students decide to take it, they have an option, in like econ or communication arts or philosophy or anything of that nature. They have a choice. But all of them should take that wellness, which includes those 3 areas.
Any other questions? As she's passing him the microphone, I'm hearing one of the deciding factors was community involvement and feedback and survey responses. So that's kind of where we are now. We're grateful to have your support and everyone who responded to the survey that was sent out earlier this week as well.
Yes, thank you for hosting this evening. My name is Darren Lombardo, and I have a question for the doctor. As it relates to your ideas in implementing or integrating it into curriculum, one of the greatest challenge, aside from mere numbers, is, and you mentioned it at the beginning, the temptation and the desire, overcoming that, instant gratification versus delayed gratification. What are some of your ideas in integrating and ways of working with students to teach them to say, you know, I have to save for the occasion, or, you know, that person or that kid has that, and boy, I would really want that, but, you know, I have to save for that day, to get the thought process to really think, to say, you know, I need to just pump the brakes a little bit, back up, save, and I will achieve that goal. So I would like to know your ideas on that. Thank you.
That's why I'm emphasizing K through 12, because the seed needs to be planted in their mind, be instilled in them how important it is, and teach them in such a way that they don't say, oh, this has math in it, I don't like math. You cannot imagine how many times during the freshman orientation when I was advising them what to do, no, I don't like math. I said, then why you want to be in a business school? If you want to be an individual that graduates with the finance, accounting, management, marketing, information system, it is a math requirement. If you don't like math, it's not for you. Go to a School of Liberal Arts. Science, you cannot do it. Math involved. College or the School of Education. You have to be a teacher. You need to know the math. So you cannot just say, I just don't like math. So we have to instill in them the whole process. Along the way, hopefully they learn that instant gratification that you alluded to. Don't you think that I wish I had everything that I have now some time ago? But I felt there are 2 ways to achieve that. Through education, or these masks these days we wear, if you don't, you're in trouble. They used to wear this and go rob a bank, and if they get caught, at least they get a 1-bedroom efficiency for some time. If they didn't get caught, they had a lot of money. But that's not the option. The option is education, which I call it the human capital. Acquiring that human capital, it helps. I don't know if I answered your question or not, but
It's a lot about wants versus needs, and as he said, you know, you could teach somebody when they're 30 years old about wants versus needs, but if you start when they're 5 and they learn it every year, it's going to be instilled in their hard drive. Question?
Good evening. I'm Ann Brittingham Suthalski, an elected member of the Wycomico County School Board representing District 4. I have 31 years in education, working in curriculum and the classroom. And I know only too well that when mandates come down that you must include something in the curriculum, something has to go out. Now, if you put it in the social studies curriculum, what part of our history are we not going to teach? Are we going to eliminate phys ed? Are we going to eliminate the arts? So my question, I guess especially, is to Mr. Lee, since I've emailed him this question but never received an answer. How do you plan to implement this into our curriculum? I also sit on the Curriculum Council for Wycomico County Public Schools. How do you plan to implement this? What is going to go out so something new can come in? There's only so many hours.
I feel like you have been looking at my questions up here because that's on my list as well. How do we prioritize financial literacy along with some of the other subjects that are already being taught in school? You know, we can't add a whole other hour onto the day. If something comes in, something has to go out. So I'm not looking for solutions or an answer to the question, but what do my panelists think about that? Dr. Kazay?
As I said, it took from 1988 to finally pass. Now that it has passed, there are choices. However, regarding K through 12, you cannot have a course in every grade. That's not going to work. I know if something new comes in, something else has to go out. However, it has to be a small part gradually. Now, who is going to teach that? The problem is our teachers are not financial literacy experts. So they need to be involved and learn the basics themselves. It may take a week or two throughout a year or semester or whatever to instill that in them, not to have a course so that the history or science has to be out. If there is a will, there are always a way. By just saying something has to give in order to bring financial literacy, no. I don't think that would be a justified solution.
Ms. Green, feel free to either come here or stay seated. We can hear you.
Yeah, I'm a poet. So I wanted to make a comment to something that you had said earlier, Doctor, where you were saying if you want to do business and you don't like math is so a part of every day of our professional lives. I was one of those students who grew up saying, I hate math. I could not stand it. To the point where I actually have a poem entitled, I Hate Math. And one of the things that I brought up in this conversation, it was that from my perspective as a young person, I wasn't really taught to like math. From my experience as a young Black woman student, I wasn't really taught to appreciate and really excel in math. It wasn't until the movie Hidden Figures came out that I saw that I was represented in this science field. And that's why I think it's really important that when we're trying to implement financial literacy, we have to make sure that representation matters and that we can relate to students in their own personal experience. Sometimes it's not really taking a course, it's just exposing young people to people who are in fields that look like them, are experienced, have the same background, the childhood that they can relate to, that they can see that, you know what, it is possible. I think a lot of young people that I work with who are specifically teens and young adults in that age group of 18 to 24, once I sit down with them and work out a budget, they've never did a budget before, but once I sit down with them and say, how much money do you bring in? Count the job. I'm talking about all the money you come and count the food stamps, count the money you get for your jobs, count the side hustle, count all of it. And then I want you to take in what the expense is. Don't just talk about rent. Don't just talk about how much money do you spend going to McDonald's? How much money do you spend shopping? How much money do you spend entertainment? Being real with yourself. And it doesn't take me to say, oh, you're spending too much money in this. You're spending too much money in this. When I expose them to the reality of what they're doing in their personal life, then they make the choice of saying, oh no, I'm not going to McDonald's this month. I'm not doing that. So I find with working with the young people that who are either experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness, if I just expose little by bit that they can and they have a place in this financial literacy, it's not something that is just for a specific group of people or top tier people. Those who are in the impoverished of communities can be financial literate to a point where my grandmother would not put her money in a bank, but she knew how to count money. She knew how to save money. And I think if we expose young people to all of the financial literacy, all the components of it, and really expand their horizons and also show representation, it won't be hard to implement. I don't think we have to take away courses to put something that is so ingrained in our everyday lives that we have to say, oh, if we want this, then we have to take away this. I think this is something that we just need to expose our young people to the reality of what is today. So that's all I had to say with that point.
I love that answer, and I do see people when they're learning financial literacy becoming excited and passionate about it, and once it starts to click in their head.
Yeah, because once you have the control, because a lot of young people, especially those who are between 18 to 24, they do not feel like they have control over their lives, and that's where you see individuals are making survival mistakes. They're doing survival crimes because they know how to get by the easy way. But then when you tell them that going the right way is easy as well, then they get excited. Then they're like, oh wait, I can do this. Oh, this is what credit is. Oh wait, if I get an LLC, I don't have to use my personal credit. I can use my business credit. Oh, okay. You start to see them get excited about a life that they thought was not theirs. And so I think if we just expose young people and let them know that they're represented in this a conversation of financial literacy, is not about being the perfect person or having this type of background, then I think it would be really easy to get young people excited about taking control of their financial life.
If I might add something else, during those almost 30 years, I always told these people who were against bringing financial literacy to the Gen Ed, I said, don't say it's not possible. We cannot do it. Come up with a solution. Rather than just rejecting it, come up with a solution. And finally, we came up with a solution.
All right, Mr. Brown, I will pose the same question to you. How would you prioritize financial literacy along with all the other subjects that are currently being taught?
Well, I think we need to expand on some of the things that we're already doing. For example, junior achievement is now being presented in grades 1 through 4, and then at the middle school level, it's continued. And then in the high school level, there are certain classes which involve financial literacy through consumer economics and even in history. And so what we have to do, like anything else, I know there once was a time when music was not taught to every kid, but now we have music in all the grades. There was a time when phys ed was not required, but now phys ed is. So we have to, as has been indicated, we have to find a way, a happy medium in there some way, how to interweave this into the curriculum. Now, one of the other things I think we need to get back to doing, like making certain things required, because if we're going to make a requirement for financial literacy to be a graduation requirement in order to enter certain colleges, and Salisbury University being one of them, I'm sure it's not going to be the only one. So therefore, local school systems are going to have to work toward making certain that every kid receives that class in order to graduate, just like that when they have to have a certain number of credits in English, math, science, and have to have community service hours. So we just have to work in the curriculum itself to find a way to get this done and move forward.
It's not about give and take, shifting and rearranging. All right, Jason, I know you have school-age children as well, so how would you prioritize financial literacy along with everything else that they are learning right now?
Well, I agree with everybody. To start with, in the younger grades, exposure. It doesn't have to be a taught class, in my opinion. And the gentleman up there that asked a question about, and I forgot your name, I apologize, but he asked a question about how do you replace getting that desire to get a car. Show them the value, show them how saving money. My son's first exposure getting a yard sale, he saw how much money he made. Now this was my youngest, my oldest, I'm not there yet. But and then he started to save money. He got excited and he's obsessed with it now. So it's starting to learn. So exposure at the younger age, and to the man's question up there, to the younger age brackets, I think is huge. And then as you get into middle school age, kids and older, choices. My son had 3 choices for music class. Why can't one be a financial literacy class? Okay, so why can't we just maybe alter what's going on in the school systems now? And maybe he's not the most artistic, and we have an alternative there. I don't have the solutions there, but I think exposure and the younger, getting them excited about saving, showing them how possible it is. It's not challenging to do, and it takes more time we have now. But then as they get older, going high school, I'm not from here, I'm from Delaware. I had a choice, a home budgeting class to take, and I took that class in high school, and it was great. Simple budgeting, compound interest. You learn some basic things. I knew about student loans going to college. Some of my classmates did not. So just that exposure, and then as we get higher up into the age and in the course schedules, make it electives at that point and/or requirements.
If I might add one more thing. We do have a personal finance course as a free elective. It's 100 level, very basic. You know who signs up for that course? Majority of them, I have checked over the last 20, 30 years, majority of them are seniors in the college. Why? They didn't have that financial literacy knowledge. They are in debt. Their credit card is maxed. They don't know how to pay it. They have a loan. They don't know how to handle it. So they take that course as they are exiting to see what they can do to solve the problem. Had they taken it the first semester, that's why I was pushing. It helps them a lot not to get into the trouble. Now, if they have a little bit of a foundation, little by little, throughout the 12 years, or 13 years, kindergarten and stuff, they're not going to have that problem.
If I can add just one thing, I don't believe that the first time and possibly the last time a young adult experiences financial literacy or talks about financial literacy is when they're completing their FAFSA. When you complete a FAFSA, you get approved for a loan. You have to take this webinar before you're able to get a loan so you can start school. Sometimes that is the first and the last time there is financial literacy being taught to an individual, especially a student coming right out of high school. And you put the presentation up that's, high schools, we have a lot of formally enrolled high schools, they're going to college, they're not, college ready. We're not doing our due diligence as adults in society to make sure that students are college ready and adult life ready if we don't put financial literacy in schools through K through 12.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
This is great. This is some good stuff going on here. We apologize that the broke down on us.
We had technical difficulties, but we're fine. Yeah.
This session is good. This is great. I want to respond to the question. I'm going to share with you my belief. My belief is that we must change the teaching methods, okay? And we must require additional or substitute readings. Let me make a point for a minute. I see a couple people in this room who've been in my classes and came out of what I'm called county system. They had no knowledge about how to create a budget, how to develop a spending plan. They had no real practical knowledge when we look at debt to income ratio, none whatsoever. I personally believe that if we had an opportunity sit down and talk with them and look at new methods. Let me just give you one. Just one, and there one. The greatest book that I have ever read outside of the book is a book titled Richest Man in Babylon. It talks about a nation that in time and space was the wealthiest country on the planet. And what did they do? Historically, how in their blood, they taught their people to be wealthy. They taught their people wealth. And we don't do that. We in America, in particular, and throughout probably the known world, we teach on a cultural basis and perpetuate whatever got us to the point where we are. Folks, it's time to do something different. And if we're going to keep on doing the same thing that you've been doing and looking for different results, you're not there. So if we are seriously looking at, and we are, because you wouldn't be here, if we're seriously, as we seriously look at, let me reframe that, as we seriously look at acquiring wealth and looking at, I'll give you one other little piece, then we'll be quiet. This was emotional. One of the things that the foundation of this country was built on, the American dream. The American dream. Car, Ford mentality. Car in every garage, chicken in the pot, okay? Folks, somebody up there said it. We got to get back to some basics. Okay? Because we talk about the thing that is the real thing, the family. Okay? The thing that's the real thing is the family. And I think it was Mr. Brown, I don't know, someone that talked about the family, and I was glad to hear that. I believe from where we are, teach them to fish and what we put and pour into our students as they come in, that's the most important thing. Because that one book that I read, other than the book, it talks about in Proverbs 13:22, a good man and woman leaves an inheritance for their grandchildren. Not for their great-grandchildren. Folks, we're going to get back to some basics. So I know that when you as Board of Education members, and I respect where you are and where you are, we have to have a people's conversation. See, we got to stop looking at what's been done and what's over there. We got to say, we want to bring some people in and talk to them that know about the real world. Because there's some detachment going on there. It's not being critical. I know you want to get the experts in and all that, and that's how decisions are made. I respect all that too. But you got to talk to some people. You got to talk to the people who go into programs like that young lady's dealing with right there. Okay? She's dealing with people that come off the street, have street problems, and that's the majority of the people. Not that 3% represented by wealth of people. Okay? I'm going to leave that alone.
We've got another question from the audience here.
Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate using the illustration of the tree, right? Because it does represent a lot, the growth and stuff like that. I like to focus more on the ground, the foundation, where you plant that tree, because it's important. And I think that based on all that's been said so far, he mentioned one key word that stuck out to me, which was value, right? Not the value of a dollar, but the value system of the individual, the family, the foundation, because different cultures value different things. And that's not being taught anywhere. I certainly understand that, some of the single parent households that got to hold 2 jobs and they don't have the time to, teach kids these types of things. The data already shows that is the truth. Numbers do not lie, okay? People lie, but the numbers don't. The data shows that we are in debt up the wazoo, and there's a reason why. I remember financial literacy. What I remember is my dad supporting 4 people on a paycheck back in the early 80s of $150 per week, feeding a family of 5. I remember him on Friday nights going to the local AMP in New York, giving that check over directly to the AMP, and they gave him change. That's the only time in that moment that I saw money, physical money, exchanged for the very first time. And then I remember on Sundays, him sitting down with those little safe box, pulling out his checkbook, writing out checks. I valued that whole process, just as an observer. Unfortunately, my father had a language barrier. He couldn't speak English, so he couldn't explain to me exactly what he was doing. That's why, for me at least, in my story, my truth is, I wound up having a 310 credit score. And unfortunately, this road runs on credit, right? A number, right? That's the unfortunate stuff. But I'll tell you today that I don't have to live paycheck to paycheck. I don't use payday loans anymore. And I do that. Why? Because my wife of an accountant told me, just start here. Sit right here, pull your checkbook out, and write every journal entry of every transaction you write. And I did that consistently every day, watched my money every day until I didn't have to anymore. And the reason why I share that story is because there is a solution. And everyone has a story and an experience. And what we need to do is, just like he said, come back to people, having these conversations, sharing their good or bad experience, and show them the way. Because the systems that are in place in our society, the data shows, are not working. They're not. So we are the cogs within that system. We need to change the system. And we change it with these forums. Communications is important. Honesty is important. And because, I don't want to judge or anything like that, but I'm not going to spend or put myself in financial burden by spending $800, $1,000 on this phone when I can't feed my family. I can't put $1,000 rims on a car that's only valued $2,000. For what purpose? There's no value there. So I think that we need to just have these honest conversations with individuals, with our children, with our grandkids. Because when they get the present, they don't know where it's coming from. They think it's Santa Claus.
Right.
It comes from me. So when they want the $400 or $500 new PS5 or whatever it is, there needs to be a lesson there. There's what you do, interference.
Intervention.
An intervention there. And this young lady mentioned about the curriculum. I get that, but I remember that when I was a toddler, they had me do math, right? 3rd grade, 4th grade, right? They drew an orange, 2 oranges, 3 oranges, 4 oranges. Find a way to put it in that. If this is 1 orange, 2 orange, 3 orange, 4 orange, how many oranges can, what's the value of that? If you take away, you're already doing the math, you're already doing it. It's just changing the dialogue and and using it, making it relatable to the kids or whatever the situation. But thank you. I love these types of forums. I'm glad that we're able to have this interaction because I think it's very important. Not for me, but for my grandkids.
Well, thank you for sharing your experiences.
I would like to say thanks for everyone who spoke about this problem that we have in the community. I'm a single parent, and I'm an alumni of Salisbury University as well. When I came to school, I didn't know anything about financial literacy, so I can relate, and I know the importance of financial literacy now that I'm a homeowner and I have a career. But going into school, I didn't know anything about student loans. But at that time, I didn't care about student loans. I had to figure out how to support my 3 children. So I thought about student loans after graduation, which now I'm in grad school, about to graduate in May, and now I have more student loans. I don't care at this point about student loans because I'm trying to teach my children, as well as financial literacy, about the importance of an education. Being a single parent, hopefully working in the human service field, I can have loan forgiveness, but I don't want my kids having to struggle and try to figure out how to pay for this and pay for that when they can learn this in school, K-12. Yes, I do teach my children about financial literacy, but when you have children that hears from mom all the time what to do, they tend not to want to listen. Oh, you told me what to do in my life, and they don't want to hear it. But if it's taught to them in ways where they can enjoy it, instead of mom trying to tell me what to do.
Gotta come from somebody else.
Coming from someone else. Coming from, I don't know about everybody else's children, but my children love school. And so going to school and learning something that will benefit them, they will take it, they will grasp it, and they will use it when they get out into the real world. So I'm for K-12 financial literacy, and I just hope that one day our children will know the importance of financial literacy, the value of a dollar, how to save, how to prepare for the future, and how to budget and stay out of debt.
Well,
thank you.
In the meantime, it sounds like you're modeling very good behavior for your kids at home.
I'm trying.
Thank you very much.
May I, nobody else, share a story as you did?
I think we got one more question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I don't have the curriculum swap answer either. I don't know what could be removed or replaced or tweaked so that way it could fit. But I just think if the public school system is one of the biggest stepping stones into higher education, and then that becomes it was my biggest financial decision at 18 years old, to borrow $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 or more. What could be more important than implementing financial literacy throughout the 12 years that you have the kids captive?
And I have to just call you guys out really quick because these people care a lot about their kids and financial literacy.
We have 8 kids, by the way, in every grade and at Warwick.
And they brought them to the Teach Them to Fish classes, and I believe every class they came to, kids of younger kids, high school age kids and younger kids, and they learned, they answered the questions, they did the homework assignments. It was amazing. I'm so proud of you guys. Well, go ahead. You were about to say something? Oh, go ahead.
I just had a couple comments. points. One of them is for my parents that grew up on farms, so they didn't have very much money at all. You know, just we ate off the land, and so with their parents, it was instilled in them, education is your way out, right? But also with that, that was a time when there was more of a focus on humility, there was not a focus on things, there was not this focus on what you had, but what you have in your mind. I think one of our barriers in relation to financial literacy, not in this country in particular, is our focus on things. Our country is so focused on stuff and what can I acquire, whether I can afford it or not. We're more concerned with the appearance of things, and that's even being more illuminated to me. I have an exchange student who's living with me for a year, and she's just in awe of all the stuff that, you know, people have, and students and everything. She's just kind of, wow, everything's a wow. And when we have that focus on this capitalism, this stuff, and people looking at the people on TV and the Instagram, and everybody, a lot of kids, well, I want to be on Instagram. I want to have a YouTube channel. Well, why? Because I can get money. And this focus on money is a problem. And even the idea of having money and not knowing what to do with the money is an issue. I have a student that I mentor who, through my church in some areas, but now that she's working, and she saved a lot of money, but she doesn't know what to do with the money. And so we have the piece where we want to teach them the importance of saving, which is great. But once you save it, what do you do with it? Even listening to, talking about students coming out of high school and going into college, think about our students who will come from being student athletes to professional athletes and the problems that they have. They have all this money, but you don't know what to do with it. And so one of the things with our kids is we never taught them what a name brand was. Never. Our kids didn't know what a, Jordans or whatever. They didn't. You like this shoe? It's Little Mermaid? Oh, that's cute. Yes, get it. Walmart. I don't care what. Walmart, Target, wherever. The importance was you need some shoes, and we're putting on shoes, right? The other piece of it was having them, once they got to a certain age, about 10 or 12, they had to work for what they wanted. So they would come and clean up around our business or what have you. We taught them they had to work. When they got a certain age, they paid for their own cell phones. They paid for half their school clothes with the money that they earned. Now, everyone does not have that ability to give their kid a job, right, where you pay for them, that sort of thing. But we also taught them how to save, even the little pennies they got, if they got money for Christmas or what have you. But I think if you don't have that to model at home, getting it in the school where it becomes, a lot of times, as she said, the kids will listen to a teacher sometimes before they'll listen to the parents. Well, Miss Jones said, at a time, there used to be everything you said was awesome. But then at a certain point, it's like, oh, well, Mr. Tommy said, well, Mr. Tommy is not, right, you, and what have you. But getting that, because they spend so much time in school, then it just becomes normal. It becomes normalized. So when they step that very first time into college, when I went to college, they had all those people waiting for me with the credit card applications. Hey, don't you want a credit card? Over here. But nobody tells you, you get this, and then you have to pay for it. And how are you going to pay for it? So getting that understanding, getting that rooted in them, to understand the importance of the money, the value of money, and how you don't let money rule you. You don't chase after money, but you use these things as a means to an end so that you can have what you need and also be able to leave that inheritance like Mr. Lee talked about, which is very important. So the capitalism is part of, I think, should really be included in that literacy portion of it so that we understand we're chasing so many things and we think it's okay in America.
Great.
Like
And
you said, the
they need to
latest
understand that money opens the door not just to things, but to education, to experiences, to life. So, yeah, absolutely. Any other comments before Dr. Kazay has one? All right, go ahead.
As you may have noticed from my accent, I wasn't born here. I lived a quarter of a century of my life somewhere else, shy of 1 year, half a century of my life here. And the reason I came to the United States because my parents wanted for me to have a better life. They always said, whatever you have can be taken away from you, but if you're educated, they cannot get it away from you, which was alluded to. And that is the key. Now, after 50 years here, I have seen, probably not right off the bat, beginning, but gradually, that I was sent here to get educated, and they sacrificed for me to have that education, even though I had a college degree before I came here. But it saddens me that the students in the United States rank the lowest compared to other countries in math, sciences, and few other things. That really saddens me. My parents sent me to a private school. I learned from that. I sent my daughter to a private school. Sending my daughter does, of course, because she got a lot of benefit from it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking the public education, but look at the trend. Look at the outcomes. Those who are doing good in the public education, their parents are helping them, and they help themselves. They are not really getting much out. It was like that in 1977 when the article I showed you. Hasn't changed much. And that saddens me because they sent me here, but here is not taken care of the education the way they should. It saddens me that we are, 16 or 17 in some of those areas. We should be number one.
Thank you. All right. Are there any other questions? Oh, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
The best way to impress a community is to suppress information. And a beautiful country that we are right now, I also believe that we are a beautiful country with a lot of chaos and a lot of problems. And when we look at our entire country, our community is divided into the haves and the have-nots. And those who have like what the doctor said, support. They have access to private schools. I was educated in DC public school system. Before I could get into grade school, my parents sacrificed everything they could to put me in private school. Was learning Spanish in kindergarten. Until they said, okay, we don't want to rent anymore, we want to own a home. So we're going to sacrifice your great education, put you in public school, and you'll survive by the time we move to the suburbs. You're not going to be in inner city anymore. You're going to be in the suburbs, so where the public school system is a little bit better than the public school system of the inner city. We're living in a capitalism, you just said it, we're living in a capitalistic country to the point where if you have what it takes to survive in this country, you're going to survive. But if you do not have it, if you do not have the perfect family, the God-fearing family, if you are not that image of what we think is the American dream, you will struggle. And I think the question is not how are we going to put financial literacy in our curriculum. The question is if we are a country where we want equal rights and we want people to have equality, Why would we not want to make sure that every child in this country can be able to survive and thrive in the country? We really need to ask ourselves, why is this a debate? Why is this a debate? Why is it a debate to give young people the knowledge, the equipment to survive in this country? A country that was built to function like this. So if we don't want to suppress, if we don't want to say that there are individuals in our community who are oppressed, if we want to say that we don't have anything wrong with our country, why is this a debate? This is the basic knowledge that we need as a people to move forward. It's embarrassing. It really is. I don't like to travel and say I'm from U.S. I'll just be honest. It is embarrassing. But I take pride in my home, and because I take pride in my home, that's why I feel like I can hold my home accountable. And by participating in this panel, by participating in this forum, everyone in this room is holding our country accountable by asking the question, why is this a debate? Why are we debating giving the basic knowledge of being financially literate to our students? If it's a debate, now I want to ask you, okay, so who do you want to have and who don't you want to have it? Because then you're really going to have to look at yourself and ask, why don't I want this particular person? Why don't they deserve to be financially literate? And if you literally are in your head and you're justifying why someone does not have the right to be financially literate, please leave. And I'm saying that in the nicest and the most respectful way. Thank you.
I second that.
Thank you.
Before I hand it back over to Mr. Lee, Mr. Brown, or Mr. Cook, would either of you like to add any other comments or say anything else? If not, it's okay. I'm putting you on the spot without a real question. No? Okay.
Well, I mean, I again concur with everything everybody has said. We got to look at it. It's a need. It's not a want scenario. It's a need because economics, capitalism. Use whatever terms you want to use. Income, assets, debt, and credit are a part of our society, and we need to know how to navigate it. And any help from school systems, school boards that they can give to the parents, why not? It's a part of life, so we need to do that because the society's changing and we're going in that direction. We used to write checks. Now they can go on their phones and send money. For me doing my job, tracing money left and right, good night. People sending stuff all over the place without proper understanding, again, from my personal experiences when I get to those individuals, how that affects them in their daily life. And the last thing I leave with this, with the budgets and everything, we need to plan, and budgets on expenditures are good. One of the things to help a lot of the customers and friends I work with, the number one expenditures for families needs to be themselves. So far too often, and I'll leave with this is just a statement I tell everybody, I'll use this forum to get that out there. Money comes in, and then a few have mentioned it, what can I get with that money? Okay, then you pay what expenses you can. All right, what's left over is for you. That really needs to be flipped, and a percentage needs to go to the family first. And if you get in a habit, there's your savings. Okay, after that savings is there, you take 10% of your pay, start with something, and then when you work with something, and then you take your expenditures left over, and hey, you might find you're going to have a little bit less. Don't go get that coffee for $5 in the morning. Now you got to make up. Now you got to earn $10 to get back to your $5. So little, just minor understandings like that. So I got a little tangent, and I'm sorry about that, but thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Joni. Hey guys, give it up for Joni Morrison. She did a great job, didn't she? Wow. Thank you so very much. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. I'm pleased with the conversation. Well worth the time. Let me make a couple observations, if I may, as we conclude here tonight. And before I do that, I want to certainly thank you, sir, for taking the time to put that together, that excellent presentation. And to the panel, each of you, I want to thank you individually and collectively for being here. And to the audience, we had a little hiccup with the
technology, and we lost.
I believe Chinese were controlling the mouse.
No, I'm from Delaware. I live over in Worcester County
I
now.
was going crazy. I don't know if you guys could see it.
Let me
my
make a
wife and
couple
she said, "Come here."
observations, if I may. And the challenge continues. And this issue, and I don't think I've never raised this question before, but we cannot escape the fact that proportionally, this issue of financial literacy is impacted most in the black and brown communities. And where we have disproportionate number of our students in school, free and reduced meals. It's not a black issue. It's not just a brown issue. It's a total issue of our community, of the have-nots. So let's put it in proper perspective, that this is what we are dealing with. That same age-old question of the haves and the have-nots. So what is it that we must do to continue this conversation? And what I got out of here tonight, and what I'm taking away tonight out of this, is that we must continue the conversation. We must continue the conversation. And it was dignified and pointed, and it was no emotion, but a lot of factual stuff came out today that is encouraging to me, that people of this caliber can come together. And I know that the decision makers in this room heard loud and clear what was said. And they are caring persons. They have spent a lifetime, most of them, in public service. And you have touched their hearts and their minds. I think that what must happen now is that this group, and I hope that those who are present here tonight, please make sure that you have clear your email address or how to contact you, because I want to reach out to this group, elected, non-elected, whosoever. My father said, whosoever will. So I want to make sure that we stay in contact with one another. I want to thank the audience in particular tonight, that you were forthcoming, you were forthright, and you were impactful. I want to thank PAC 14 also. But I think the next time we will not do PAC 14, because I think that we need more people in this audience the next time so that we can interact. And probably if we had that thing hadn't messed up on us, we'd have probably got additional information to what we have here. So in conclusion tonight, we must continue the conversation regarding the legislation that our delegate is preparing or is going to co-sponsor. We have to be all over top of it, in support, because it's a political question. Let's not kid ourselves. K-12 education is a political question. I listened intently and really appreciated the discussion that the school board member raised in terms of what do we have to give up. If you want something, you got to give up something basic. But I believe that with people like yourselves who are in this room coming to the table with our elected officials. And that has been a part of this campaign, to meet and talk with them. So we're going to continue to drive to do that. We have a meeting scheduled, I think, sometime next month, beginning of next month, with the county commissioners to have this conversation to continue. And we're going to come back to the school board to continue to have this conversation. This is what divides us, Paul. This is what keeps us from achieving. We've got to figure a way to come to the table together to continue this conversation. And we will. Thank you so very much, and good night.